Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Cup, Duet Reviews, brought to you by Cup of Hemlock Theatre. I will be your host for this episode, Ryan Borochovitz, and today we are excited to be talking about Tick, Tick, Boom by Jonathan Larson, with contributions by David Auburn, directed by Meredith Shedden, and presented by Bowtie Productions, here in Toronto, running at Alumni Theatre until November 15th, 2025. That's the year we're in for now. Today, to talk about Tick Tick Boom, I am joined by a very special guest, first-time guest on the Cup here today. She is a very prolific theater reviewer, arts administrator, jack of all trades, and just a really cool person who I'm happy to talk about this fun musical with today. Lori Ossip, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm really excited you called me cool.
Yeah, you're cool. You know you're
I'm
cool.
cool, guys.
That's not news to you.
No. Hi. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah.
My first podcast.
Yes.
I feel like a celebrity.
Yes, but usually people come to the podcast having never reviewed anything before. And it's just like, yeah, we'll have an informal chat about the show. They're like, oh, I don't know, I'm not a critic. And like, but you are a critic. You write reviews for both your blog, Girl Likes Theater, and for Next Magazine, which I also write for. So I think you're going to have a lot of really cool things to say.
Coincidence, huh?
Yeah, how did you manage to stumble into this Zoom room and we happen to write for the same publication? So weird.
Some might think you might have had a say in that.
I don't know. Seems so unlike me. Well, we always have to start with our favorite ridiculous, for some reason, ritual. What is in your cup today?
What is in my cup? It's caffeine.
That's good. We are recording this in the morning after opening night. It's also November 9th, and it looks like we've just had our first snowfall of the season, which is wild. So what's in your caffeine cup?
It is iced espresso with whole milk.
Ooh.
Because now that I have a baby and he drinks whole milk, I stopped drinking oat milk because once you try milk, turns out it tastes better.
Yeah, it's true.
So
my apologies to the cows. It's just better. Yeah.
It is. But I also have water because hydration is important, as well as just, functioning as a human. So we have both.
Nice.
What do you have?
Oh, okay. So my cup is in the classic The Cup Cup. Hey, that's the show you're watching right now. The merch that we have but don't sell. I am drinking green tea. Because
green.
Yeah, I tried to sing it for a moment and then instantly regretted and then stopped singing it. But yes, I have green tea, which I chose specifically because there is a song in the show called Green Dress, which I don't like very much. I don't love that song.
You don't?
We'll talk more about it soon, but it's probably my least favorite song in the show. Not for any musical reasons, for narrative reasons, but we'll get into it.
Well, I guess I have brown coffee.
You got brown coffee. So much better. If only that were the song, that would be better.
I like that one.
I think it's okay. All right, we're getting into it. We will have a post-spoiler section where we will get into all of the weeds. But to just get started, we'll do our basic summary and general appraisals for the benefit of people who will want to stop before we get too specific. So, Lori, why don't I throw it to you? How would you describe this show in a non-spoiler way for someone who's on the fence about whether or not to see it?
I would describe this production of this show specifically in one word: playful. It is playful. What is it about? It's a lot about self-discovery and finding your purpose in the world. So it centers around the character of Jonathan, which is Jonathan Larson, the composer of all the music and most of the script, I think, TBD. And it's about his journey of trying to write the next best musical. Around him is his girlfriend, Susan, played by Diana Del Rosario, and Misha Sharivkar. If I pronounce any of your names wrong, my bad.
Also, you didn't say who plays John, which is
because I have to give him his own shout out.
Oh, apologies for stepping on your toes. Please give him a special shout out.
Joshua Kalimnik. I have to give my attempt at mispronouncing his name too. So he plays the multi-hyphenate, I guess, because he sings, he acts, plays piano, both in the play and in real life. Anyway, so it centers around Jonathan's story, his girlfriend, and his best friend and roommate, Michael, played by Misha. Jonathan is trying to write this musical, and also there's a lot of sense of urgency because he's about to turn 30, and sees the world around him moving forward and people hitting milestones. His friend Michael got a new job. Susan's considering making a career shift, and he is a little stuck and feeling purposeless or not. Like his genius has not been found. It hasn't been appreciated.
Yeah, he's quite confident in his genius. If only the world would catch up.
Yes, exactly. And obviously this is Jonathan Larson's piece. Jonathan Larson is the creator of Rent, which is a big phenomenon.
Maybe you've heard of it.
Perhaps. Perhaps. So we know in the back of our minds where this semi-autobiographical story ends up in the real world, but the musical itself is really centered around his early years before anything has happened. So unless you've read a biography of Jonathan Larson, it should be a surprise.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because there was a couple years ago the film adaptation of this play. And if I recall correctly, that adaptation really wants you to know the biography of Jonathan Larson. There was like this, okay, I'm going to go full disclosure. I tried to watch this movie 3 times and just could not get through it. I told you this before we saw the show last night. I'm sure it's very good. Everyone tells me it's very good. I just was always very sleepy anytime I tried to watch it and just could not groove with it and kept trying again because I really wanted to like it. And I'm sure if one day when I'm less sleepy, I will rewatch it and actually enjoy it. But I've never made it past like 20 minutes of this movie. I enjoyed this play. The stage version is good for a variety of reasons, and I'm sure that the film is good for different reasons and some overlapping reasons. But I recall, because I watched it 3 times, that the first like minute of the movie was this like, oh, Jonathan Larson, we love you, we lost you. Here's a montage of stuff from your life, from Rent. And it's like, I think it changes the experience of what are we watching right now if you preface it with the biography. I think you made an interesting point there about how the show on its own terms brackets all that off because it had not yet existed when the show came into existence, when he was writing it, because all of the autobiography in it is just him being like, I'm writing this thing and I haven't made it yet, which was true for him at the time. But then if we kind of reconceptualize this as one Footnotes on Rent, like a kind of diary, musical theater diary that he was keeping for himself while he was making Superbia, aka not Rent. And then if you kind of also think about, is it a spoiler for this show to say that real life Jonathan Larson died young at, I think, age 35? Is that? I don't feel like that spoils this show because this show isn't about that. But the movie feels like it is. At least the first minute of it. I don't know. Thoughts on that before we go further?
I would agree with that, except to say that you should really watch the movie.
At some point, I don't have Netflix anymore, so I don't know when or how, but yeah.
You're resourceful. You have friends.
I do. This is true.
You know, it's really good. And I think we'll talk about this. If we're good, we're going to talk about narrative structure. And I think it plays very differently in a movie format. A lot of internal monologues you can obviously show. Or have montages with music set in the background. So the way that you consume the media it's just different. And I think one question that we should keep in the back of our minds as we go through this, quick clarifying note, you mentioned it at the beginning that David Auburn, the playwright, had script contributions. Now this piece in itself is based on music completely written by Jonathan Larson, but stitched together by David Auburn. So the original version was a song cycle, a one-person show, perhaps with backup singers, but predominantly Jonathan Larson sitting at a piano singing his piece. So is the movie more in line with his original vision, or is this play adaptation perhaps more in line with his original adaptation? The play has 3 characters. The movie has a million, but there was only one in the song cycle. I assume that a lot of the dialogue was taken from the original monologues, but also there are scenes. There were no, that's not the same thing. So is the movie more accurate, or is the play more accurate when it comes to what Jonathan Larson posthumously would have wanted? That's a fun word. So keeping in the back of our minds that it says by Jonathan Larson, but that's with an asterisk, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. It's certainly about Jonathan parentheses Larson, because that surname also never shows up in the show, which gives it this sort of semi-autobiographical, not really him, but also him. Superbia isn't a real musical that exists, I don't think. Like, I think that is just a nom de plume sort of replacement for Rent. That, like, is that...
No, I think there was.
Really?
I think there was.
That sounds so, like, describing Rent, but...
No, because they took the song Come to Your Senses from a previous musical that had kind of failed of his. So I think it was. I don't know if it was called Superbia. I can...
Because if it was, then, like, okay, that's interesting.
It was.
He actually wrote a musical called Superbia that nobody remembers, aside from it just existing in the shadows of this other show that also nobody would remember if not for Rent's big success and then his death. Or flip those, but...
Yeah. I'd be curious. I would be curious to see what Superbia was. I imagine it's kind of out there.
I have a hunch, I guess now knowing that it exists, I have a hunch that it's probably just Rent minus La Boheme. Because I recall reading about, I got really into the Rent lawsuit and reading about that at one point a while back, because Lynn Thompson, who was the dramaturg on Rent, who worked with Jonathan Larson, after his death, sued his family because she felt that she had contributed enough material to Rent that she deserved a co-author credit. And it became like a sort of public trial in the musical theater world, not that well known to the general public. And the court eventually ruled in Larson's family's favor and said that, yes, while the dramaturg has this role of contributing and helping finesse, there was some sort of like threshold of how much you need to contribute to get co-authorship that she didn't meet. But it was also an interesting flashpoint in the history of popular consciousness around dramaturgy and what a dramaturg does that was, interesting in me as a dramaturg. I just found that fascinating and got into that. So I think just thinking about that in relation to the development history of Rent, I think the addition of La Boheme was a kind of late in the game. Oh, this will give it structure. I don't think it started with, I'm going to just sit down and write La Boheme, but in the 90s about AIDS instead of tuberculosis. So I would have a hunch that Superbia was probably that first draft of Rent before he realized the secret sauce to make it structurally sound. But that's just speculation. I just now learned that Superbia actually exists.
I think it would probably be helpful to clarify a little bit what you're talking about with Rent. In real life, Jonathan Larson died at about 12:30 or 1 a.m. before the night before, or morning, I don't know, semantics, of the first preview of the off-Broadway production of Rent. So he never got to see his vision fully realized, or at least we don't know what the show would have been had he still been a part of the production. And that's why you're talking about this lawsuit, because there were presumably changes that were made to the original production that had other people contributing and arguing that it was their piece too, which is interesting that his two pieces that he's known for, predominantly Tick, Tick, Boom and Rent, definitely Rent like 100 times more than Tick, Tick, Boom, but still, thanks to Lin-Manuel Miranda, Tick, Tick, Boom's in the conversation as well. He directed the movie. Both of his pieces were finished by other people. So his legacy, which is a very, very big theme in Tick, Tick, Boom, and what your purpose is and what you're going to leave behind, has been set in some part by other people or stitched together using words that weren't originally his. And I have to wonder what he would think of that. And probably he'd be pretty happy. I mean, Rent's doing great, but he is an artist and moody. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because he couldn't have anticipated that he was going to die when and how he did. Although that sort of ticking clock in the titular Boom feels more meaningful because of that, because of what we know. It's unclear to what extent he was or able to anticipate that. And yet, as much as the show Tick, Tick, Boom is about his desire to be famous and make it and have the world love and appreciate him for his art, that question of collaboration and co-authorship and ownership, none of that exists in it. There's never a scene where he's worried about the control of, oh, this isn't my thing anymore, because all of that we know happened after his death for the most part. The collaboration with Lynn Thompson on Rent did happen like during his life. It's not just that she showed up at the end and made it presentable after his death. Like they were working in tandem together. I think she had a pretty good case. I'm not going to dispute the New York court that decided that she didn't write enough to be co-author, but it's a fascinating case. But I think, yeah, this idea of what would he think about how the two big works that he is known for, one more so than the other, and the second, Tick, Tick, Boom, as I said, is kind of just footnotes to that other one. I don't think anybody would really care about Tick, Tick, Boom if Rent wasn't the big success that it was. You can dispute that if you feel like it, but
I think it would probably have stayed as a small indie or underground song cycle of a rock opera, because I think it really is what the material is at its heart. It would have been a really cool underground show that this guy did with some of his friends singing backup, in some of the duet songs just joining him, but for the most part, it's centered around one guy. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be big to be great. And this never made it to Broadway, made it to off-Broadway, because it is a more intimate show and definitely lends itself to a production that is in line with the scale of the show. It's 90 minutes, no intermission, moves pretty quickly, lots of songs close together. So I think that would have been okay if it stayed small.
Well, and I agree, and I kind of think it has a real Fringe Festival musical vibe to it, especially, I'm sure, even more so in the song cycle version of it, where it's just him at the piano with maybe a couple people behind him. And Fringe Festival musicals very rarely make it too far beyond the Fringe. And I think what gives a lot of it its meaning is that footnotes to Rent quality, or footnotes to the life that was cut down too short, that we feel like we have this other thing that many of us really love. I know Rent is very polarizing, but there's this other thing, and then this gives us a window into the firebrand creative who made it and what was going through his mind at the time. The kind of interesting comparison that I want to make, and I don't think this needs to go in the post-spoiler section, so I might as well bring it up now. I feel like you and I have both seen a better version of Tick, Tick, Boom just in this past year, and it's called A Strange Loop. Thoughts?
Oh, okay. So let me clarify that by saying not this specific production.
Okay, fine. Yes, we're still talking.
Before we get to the spoiler section, want to shout out that this production, I think, is
pause for
excellent.
A moment. We'll save the Strange Loop comparisons for post-spoiler. I'm just putting it in the air now. Let's cap off the pre-spoiler section with just general appraisal of this production, as you were just about to do, and then we will go post-spoiler. No?
Let me Strange Loop. I think I can do this pre-spoiler. Okay. I think they're both great productions. The Toronto production of Strange Loop and the Toronto production of Tick, Tick, Boom, I thought were both great. But I think the quality of the material is just better in A Strange Loop in terms of narrative structure, and it's kind of like intellectual in a way that feels kind of cool. It makes you think in a different way. You see someone's perspective very clearly. That was different. But I wouldn't say that Tick, Tick, Boom is as much a show within a show as A Strange Loop is. So A Strange Loop is also about the protagonist writing a show about himself, writing a show about him. So it's always, that's the loop. It keeps going and going. But it is about a guy writing a show, which is the same. But this one is I feel like the songs in this show, in this musical, are serving a narrative function within this musical. It's not like cutting back and forth between this theoretical work that the composer is creating and then going back to real life, except for maybe in the 11 o'clock number, which we can talk about a little later. But for the most part, it's serving a narrative function within that story. So it's not really, it's about a guy writing a show, but it's not about that show that he's writing so much as I think A Strange Loop is. I think you could probably argue the opposite, but I think that A Strange Loop is just a little bit more of a deep thinking piece, a little more obtuse in its messaging that you have to work a little bit, which I love.
Yeah, and I think that's why I say
Pulitzer, no?
Yeah, and that's part of why and Rent won a Pulitzer too. So, there's we don't need to compare pedigree here, but I think part of why I say that I guess I like just the material of A Strange Loop more is because it's headier and makes you think it's more self-reflexive in that way. And it's also just got way more on its mind. It's about race and representation and being objectified by people's perceptions of your race. And I just think Jonathan Larson to me is just a less interesting person than Michael R. Jackson. So a self-reflexive autobiographical musical about him writing a show is just going to be less interesting for that reason.
I think I disagree with that. Less or more interesting. I think Jackson has a very unique perspective that is very distant from me, as not his views, but me as a person and my upbringing and my life. So
really, you're not a queer Black man? No,
not today. Not today.
Okay, maybe tomorrow. I'll ask again then.
No. But it feels very much like I am learning about someone else and a whole life that was new. And that's an amazing thing about theater, is that it brings people together by introducing different perspectives. But I think that, and Jonathan Larson's life is maybe closer to some people I know, but I don't think that makes it any less interesting. And I think that there's often beauty in the mundane. Again, not saying it's mundane, but anything you can.
It's kind of mundane.
I don't know.
And it's not to negate it's the beauty of the mundane, but it is kind of mundane, in my opinion.
Well, I think that the simplicity can be nice too.
Yeah,
sometimes
as we just said,
like life is hard, or figuring out what you want is hard, and it doesn't need to be this big theoretical analysis on how we're cognitively functioning and processing emotions and stimuli. It can just be, I want to do something great, but I don't know how, or I know I can, but I feel stuck. And that's okay. So anything can be interesting. I mean, I would watch Meryl Streep just like sit and eat a bowl of cereal for an hour and probably pay $15 at a movie theater. Probably, because she's probably going to do something interesting. That's a weird example, but I think I've made my point. Right. Interesting is both subjective, but also we should open our minds and let the strength of the piece speak for itself. No, I think A Strange Loop is just better material, but that doesn't mean it's more interesting.
Okay, for me, I think it's better. I feel like it's better because it's more interesting, but we're splitting hairs at this point.
Yeah, but this is a podcast, isn't that?
That's what we're here for. Split as many hairs as you want.
Okay, but point taken.
Yeah, any last thoughts just about general appraisal of this production, non-spoiler, before we get into more weeds?
Yes, definitely. I think we should talk about at least at a high level, about the three performers.
Yes.
I think this is where this production shines. I love their energy. I started by saying that I thought it was playful, and it really is. They come in with this exuberance and clear love and appreciation of the material. And then you pair that with genuine talent, which is nice.
Yeah.
I think the three of them are special.
Yeah.
I truly do, especially, all three of them. But Josh's piano skills
there he is with his piano. Look at that. He was born to be in this show. Look at this. Look at this. This man was born to be in this show. And oh my God, his pipes. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Continue. I'm cutting you off.
That is a brooding artist in the photo that you just held up.
For those listening in audio only form, I'm just holding up the program and the picture of him on it. He fits. He definitely fits in this show, in this role, in this identity. And that's even without hearing him sing, which is also the best part.
Yeah. No, you know what? I think he is so charming and likable and earnest. I mean, from the first few minutes when he pops out of his little door, and I do not consider that a spoiler because
it's within the first few minutes, thing that happens in the show.
Pops out a little bit. I'm not gonna.
It doesn't ruin anything.
Dive into that further. From that moment, he's got you, and you want him to succeed. And I think that this character could be kind of annoying, and maybe you thought so, brooding and he knows he's a genius and wants to be appreciated, and that could get annoying really quickly. Mm-hmm. No one likes someone that you don't want to root for. But Josh does not, or Joshua. I don't know. Do you know if he gets called by Josh?
I've definitely called him Josh to his face, and he hasn't corrected me. So apologies if that was rude of me.
That's on me. I'm not sure, but okay, whatever you call Joshua, he just brings you in and he makes you like this character. And I think that, I mean, we should like him. He's the protagonist of the show, but he carries the whole weight of the show on his shoulders, and he happens to have an excellent singing voice too. Mm-hmm. You know, and the other two performers, Diana and Misha, are equally fantastic, and their presence on stage, the way they play off of each other. I like the choreography, their little dance moves.
I don't think a choreographer is credited, actually. I was looking at this.
Did Meredith do it as well?
Yeah, Meredith is the director, I guess we can assume, did the choreography, but I don't see apologies if we're just missing that. But I'm flipping through the program and I don't see one. So good job, Meredith, as director choreographer, if that's the case.
It was fun, and it's got serious moments, but it's not a downer. Mm-hmm. I think if you want to see up and coming Toronto talent or Canadian musical theater talent who are truly really, really great, it doesn't feel unprofessional. So don't mm-hmm. I'm not saying up and coming in like a green or unpolished way. It feels lower scale, they don't have as much money as Mirvish, but not lower quality. It's they were great. So see it for them. I can't think of a better iteration of this material that you could see, at least in Canada. Mm-hmm. Apart from the movie, which we'll talk about, is its own thing. But if you want to see a musical, I think they've elevated the material and they made it. Yeah, they made it the best version of what it could be, in my opinion.
I completely agree. I feel like I'm still a little lukewarm on the material itself, which we'll talk more about as we go post-spoiler. But all three of these performers, so playful, as you said, so charming, so likable. I think part of why I struggled to click with the movie, and again, I will give it another chance at some point, is I found Andrew Garfield's interpretation of Jonathan Larson tedious. I think just as he's not at least in the first 20 minutes, maybe he gets the audience to warm up, but like he just felt very arrogant. He knew he's a genius and he wants you to know he's a genius. I didn't feel that way about Josh's performance. Josh was just affable and charming. And yes, he is aware of his own skills as Jonathan, the writer, and even Josh as the singer performer. But there's just an affability to him that I didn't get from the first 20 minutes of Andrew Garfield's performance. And I like Andrew Garfield. I think he's a very talented actor. I like him in the Spider-Man movies that I do not like, but he's still good in them. I liked him in The Social Network. Good actor. I could not connect with his interpretation of the character in the first few minutes of that film. So, and I say that as a testament.
Loved him.
Yeah, you're allowed. He's a charismatic, good-looking guy. Sings well.
I actually love the first few minutes in the movie when he does this basically beat for beat, if I'm remembering correctly, reproduction of Jonathan. No, I haven't seen it since it came out. I saw it twice and then I haven't seen it in a while. But he does a beat for beat reproduction of a Jonathan Larson recording of Jonathan performing the material in this rock opera monologue version of what it used to be. And he does little takes and he kind of some of the vocal inflections. And I just, I thought it was, this is like me goggles on where he's kind of a dreamboat in my mind.
Yes. So and I acknowledge that he's very charismatic and handsome. Maybe because what you're saying is the way that he did like the ticks and got really into like the forensic recreation of the character. Maybe I would just find real life Jonathan Larson tedious. Like, I don't know if he's someone I would get along with if we met each other. R.I.P., I guess. But, like, yeah.
You are trying to get yourself canceled. Nah.
Yeah. I've always been, like, I like Rent. I don't love Rent. I don't get why people are so polarized on it. I think it's a solid show that I like just fine, but don't go crazy over. That's just me.
I think this is a point where will have to admit my own biases,
Please.
which is to say that Rent is too nostalgic for me to be able to look at it critically.
That's fair. And it's good that
part
those
of
are
my
the goggles you put on. Yes.
Yeah, I love it. And I could hear, it was nice listening to the Tick Tick Boom music to hear themes or melodies, or at least even like patterns in the music that sound familiar. Jonathan Larson as a composer seems to have a pretty identifiable voice.
Mm-hmm.
You hear music and say, oh, it's his. Not all his songs, but in Johnny Can't Decide, for example, which is one of the first songs, I heard a little bit of Rent, some of the harmonies, which were tight, by the way, performed by the cast expertly,
snap.
And crystal clear. Oh, when it rings. But it was so the nostalgia kicks in when you hear something that makes you, that makes you all warm and fuzzy because of human experiences in life. I mean, I was like a teenager when the Rent movie came out. I saw it on Broadway when I was 12, maybe 13, in its last legs.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm more positive than someone who didn't grow up with Rent would be.
I saw Rent for the first time in my 20s, I will admit. So, yeah, it's...
Production or the movie?
First the movie, then a production.
Oh, okay.
Bad order, I know, but...
I mean, that was how I got into it, too, because I feel like going to see Rent on Broadway at 7 would have been a lot.
Yeah.
You do you, man, but...
yeah.
Yeah, and the movie is a little bit they toned down and they cut down some of the
I like the stage version.
Songs.
I've seen multiple stage versions now, and I do like the stage version much more than the movie, but the movie was my introduction to it, and it wasn't a childhood staple for me. I did come to it later in life.
Okay, yeah. Well, so that's curious then. I think we could probably discuss whether we think Tick Tick Boom is better than Rent.
Yeah.
Or is Rent better? I don't know if that's spoiler or non-spoiler, though.
Okay, you know what? We've done enough heaping praise on this performance. If you want to go see this, it is running at Alumni Theatre until November 15th, 2025. Again, this is Tick Tick Boom by Jonathan Larson, directed by Meredith Shedden, presented by Bowtie Productions. At this point, for those watching on YouTube, you might notice that there's a Twinkie showing up on the screen. That will be our spoiler Twinkie for this episode. And if you're listening to this in podcast-only form, just imagine a Twinkie that says spoilers on it. We are in it now. We've said many times we'll talk about this post-spoiler. Where do you want to start? Do you want to follow up on the thought you were just having, or do you want to go to something else first?
It was so surprising when everyone died and there was this mass cholera outbreak. No, I'm kidding. That's not the plot of this production. You're taking it to me. Where do I want to go?
Yeah,
geez. Why don't we talk about the music? And,
yeah, sure. Do you have a favorite song in it? Let's start there.
Do I have a favorite song? Yeah, I do. I think coming into it, my favorite song was the opener, 3090.
Yeah,
which is a bop.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a great song, and I do like Andrew Garfield's interpretation, and I will die on that hill.
I think he sings very well. I just find that character annoying in the
and the
first
Golden
20
Globes
minutes.
Agreed with me.
Yeah,
they
that's
agree
fine.
with me, which I don't know. Does that mean I don't know?
Anyone who watched the whole thing has more authority on this subject than I do. Then I'm putting that out there, but we're not reviewing the movie, so I find not having the best authority on the movie.
Watched more than 15 minutes. No, but okay, so I really liked that number, and I thought that Joshua did a really great job at performing it. But in the musical itself, the other characters get to sing some of the songs. Michael, in particular, in the movie adaptation, doesn't really get much to work with in terms of music.
Wait, he doesn't sing real life?
I can't remember, but
that feels like a strange thing to cut.
We should probably look that up.
All right,
we should look that up. But it's very much skewed towards just Jonathan Larson, the character, and then Alexandra Shipp, who played what's her name, Susan, did sing "Come to Your Senses," and I thought it was narratively better in the movie because it was Alexandra Shipp and what's her name, girl from Gabriela Montez from High School Musical. I also really like Come to Your Senses.
Yeah. So wait, did you just say that Susan sings Come to Your Senses in the movie, not Caressa?
Susan and Caressa.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so let me back up a little bit and say that going in, 3090 was definitely my favorite song, and I thought it was performed really well. Come to Your Senses, I thought Diana crushed.
Yeah, oh my God, so good.
But in the movie, I like the narrative function. So it flips back and forth between the actress playing Caressa and the actress playing Susan, sort of, and it's sort of framed as the character of Jonathan is looking for this one next song to complete his musical.
A one-song glory, one might say.
Exactly. Except this time he's not going to steal it from La Boheme, maybe. And and he and it's kind of cut between getting real advice or having difficult conversations with his girlfriend Susan about making a difficult life decision about whether or not he should move to, in the movie I think it's the Berkshires, in the play it's Cape Cod. I mean, why are you moving across Massachusetts? I don't know. Just go to Boston, but regardless.
Because they want to get out of the city and other cities.
Yeah. But Boston's so small. As someone who lived there, like, no, it's not that big. But it kind of, it kept going back and forth and showing how the real life things that were going on were influencing his work, and they did it as a duet with the two women, which was kind of cool because they're both really, really talented. In this version, it does that too, sort of. So maybe I'm misinterpreting, but the character of Caressa, who's also played by Diana, starts singing this piece, and she's wearing a distinctive jacket. So you know that she's playing Caressa, and then halfway through the song, she takes it off. So I think we might be meant to think that she's kind of playing the girlfriend now. It's not really clear, and it's just a really good song that doesn't function in the story as well as it did in the movie structure.
Okay, that's interesting to hear about the movie, because I agree. I was stuck on that moment when she takes off, because that little jacket, the fuzzy pink jacket, signifies Caressa. Like, we're dealing with a 3-person cast, individual costume pieces inform the audience when they're being one character versus the other, which was then used
there's no costume designer listed.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, well, so sorry.
So again, Meredith gets all the credit.
You go, girl.
But so I think because like we're just so attuned to, you see the pink jacket, you know that's Caressa now that Diana is playing. And they use this device of the costumes very humorously when Misha plays the agent for one scene and he puts on those costumes. It was very funny. It's weird because we've also become very accustomed to not seeing characters change in front of us. We're used to finding the signifying costume items, but there's always an entrance as the new character. I think maybe if they had established more of changes on stage, now I'm this character, then we could have gotten something more meaningful in the shift from Caressa to presumably Susan in that moment. And maybe if Josh had had more of a visible reaction to, I am now imagining that it's my partner singing this song, I don't know. I think some more clarity in that moment could have made it feel more meaningful, because I agree right now, as great of a song that is, and Diana's performance was stunning, narrative function wise, all I kind of got from it is, oh yeah, this is the song he's been writing, the musical he's been writing. Wow, yeah, it is really good. He is a genius. Good job. But I didn't really feel like it was telling us anything about him and the journey he's on. It more felt like the product than the process, if that makes sense.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. And maybe they could have done something with the staging, like gotten Jonathan to come up and stand with Susan in a way that is reminiscent of, something. Yeah. Something that would have made us
a visual cue that takes us back to Green Dress, maybe, like, because that was I don't know.
All that to be said, Diana sells it, so I don't really care.
Yeah, Diana's amazing.
I was like, I'm in it.
Yeah.
That was great. And that in the grand scheme of things is kind of the one song that gets picked out a lot and performed on its own from this show. That's a classic audition song for for, I don't know, mezzo and soprano belters.
Mm-hmm.
So, and maybe performed in cabarets because it stands on its own. So, and there were a couple numbers like that where they sounded a little bit like I don't want to say like jukeboxy style songs that maybe had a different function and are now in the story. And perhaps it's because it has been stitched together. Mm-hmm. And in a individual, one guy sitting at the piano just chatting about what he wants to, that probably works really well. Yeah. But in a narrative story, it didn't work as well. So I'm thinking of like the one that talks about, it's called Sugar. Yeah. One that talks about how he loves sugar.
The Twinkie song.
Maybe the green dress song. But again, I just thought it was so charming that I didn't really care.
Okay, I guess so. Let's go to what I hinted at earlier about why that song rubs me the wrong way a little bit. Because I think musically it's a fun song and sounds nice. And they both sang it very well. This is ostensibly the romantic duet of the show, the love song. Like Therapy doesn't count to like fill that role. That's them having discord in their relationship.
Oh, I love Therapy too.
Therapy's a fun song. Sunday is a very fun song. Like there's a lot of fun songs here because obviously like we get our Sondheim riff in Sunday. But
you should watch that from the movie.
Okay,
you should watch
just
Sunday.
In isolation.
It's like the Marvel universe of musical theater performers have come together.
Okay, that's fun.
It's Lin-Manuel Miranda flexing how many friends he has.
He's just scrolling through his Rolodex and be like, who can I get to
Pretty
be in this
much.
one scene?
And this is why this is the spoiler section.
That's what it's for. That's why there's a Twinkie on screen. So Green Dress, to me, just feels like the most superficial love song you could possibly write. It's not about her or any of her innate qualities. It's literally about the clothes she's wearing. And I think if narratively we're supposed to feel like this is a superficial relationship, that they actually like don't care that much about each other as people, they don't have much in common, that would maybe like justify why he's struggling to like make this big decision. But like, I also just feel like Susan isn't a very well-developed character. And like, which is a shame because Diana like knocks the performance out of the park. And as a character, she gets great moments, but I don't really know a lot about her. She's a dancer. She teaches dance. She doesn't want to live in the city, but doesn't give any kind of specific reasons about why, just that like it's wearing her down. But we don't see enough of her life to really like get a window into that. And then the one kind of spotlight song that's supposed to make us invested in the good part of their relationship before things fall apart is the song about how you look so hot in that dress you're wearing. Like it doesn't do it for me narratively for the investment I feel like we're supposed to make in this relationship that would raise the stakes in the big decision. Because right now I feel like the decision to move to, at least in this version, Cape Cod is just like it'll be a marker of whether or not I've made it and whether or not I'm giving up. But it has nothing to do with, well, I love her, so how important is this relationship to me? I don't know. That's what irks me about it. And I think a better type of song about the relationship itself would have raised the stakes of that portion of the show.
Hear you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I keep thinking back to one of the last lines of the show where I don't know which character it is. It's probably Jonathan sings about why do we stay in relationships with people even if we know they're not right for us? Are we so afraid to sleep alone? Mm-hmm. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he's singing at. And I think with Jonathan and Susan, and spoilers, but there's a Twinkie on the screen.
We're all spoilers now.
Yeah. Or you can hear it. The Twinkie is so omnipresent in her speaking that those podcast listeners can envision it so clearly.
Taste the cake and cream.
Exactly.
Of spoilage.
Spoiler, they do break up because they want different things. And it's not because they don't like each other. It's just they're not right for each other. They're not working. And I think that song is kind of it's a hint to that. And sometimes things just don't work out. They're great people, and there's not this big thing that breaks them up. It's just you don't have the same goals, you don't have the same life plans, you're in different places, whatever. They just don't work. And that song, Green Dress, really shows the playfulness in the relationship and that they really do like each other and that they have something fun going. And it's not the deepest, presumably, because or it is. We don't really know. It's not, but
the song isn't very deep.
along.
Whatever else their relationship might have, the song isn't conveying
we
it.
don't know. I mean, the text isn't doing them any favors. Okay, so we have to infer any deep, any.
But this is a critique about the text, I guess.
Yeah. So, but I think in defending it, you can make the argument that this is exactly what their relationship is, and it's not trying to pretend like it's this really deep, I will be with you forever. We are meant, and it's not a heartbreaking end. It's heartbreaking because life is hard. It's not heartbreaking because you become so invested in these two characters. And that adds to the lightness of the piece. And it kind of, so I don't hate it. Mm-hmm. I think it's pretty realistic in that, yeah, we like each other,
but I won't take two subways and a bus to come see you.
That's so annoying. The two subways thing, though, I would ask more clarification. Like, are you transferring on the same platform? Because that's really not a big deal. Is this like a changing at 59th Street where you cross the platform? Or do you have to go upstairs and walk across a hallway and go somewhere else and then get confused? And then that is a clarifier. Now a bus.
In New York City.
In New York City? Oh. And also,
this relationship could have never worked if you have to take a bus.
And so if he's living in Soho and his friend's office is presumably somewhere in the Midtown Hell's Kitchen area based on the text, why would going to 96th Street be closer? I didn't understand that. That was a line that they said. They said, oh, come sleep over. I'm closer to the office. I don't think you are.
And like this was presumably written for an audience who is much more intimate with New York geography than
it probably is.
I don't know.
That's just me. That's just me not understanding. Maybe it's one subway instead of two subways and a bus. Maybe he doesn't have to go cross town.
The fact that she needs the fact that they need the bus in the first place, though, I feel like means that they're not close to a subway line.
No, usually you have to the subway for a lot of the part, it doesn't cross this way unless you're at the bottom of Manhattan.
Okay.
So if you're going through the park, like Central Park, you have to take a bus.
But wouldn't he need to take the bus
go
regardless?
To 59th and then
for him to get to Hell's Kitchen from her apartment, he'd probably need to take a bus again, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't know.
This is the important question.
This is why you bring me on.
Yes, I love it. This is great.
Someone who has not lived in New York is giving you a dissection of...
Giving Jonathan Larson a piece of your mind about the geography in this show.
But also, this is 90s, so it's a period piece.
That's true.
They didn't even... Yeah, there was the promise of a East Side subway being built that just stopped. That was the biggest... sacrifice or tragedy is that they never finished it. Right. I kid. Okay, all this is to say, I agree with you that the side characters feel caricatures, feel very much as if it is a single solo man show
that
with
then turned
two other characters singing background. And I like that they gave Michael in particular and Susan more material, more solos, more here's what I'm thinking. But at the end of the day, it really is Jonathan is the guy, and then everyone else is just how do they serve him.
Well,
and that is the flaw.
And I think that's also interesting because I feel like Jonathan, yes, obviously he's like the focus, and obviously it's his show. It's his solo show that got exploded into now there's more people in it. I think Michael, to me, feels more developed than Susan because he kind of has his own little arc in it, and because he's the one dying of AIDS, and we know that's what's going to inspire Rent. But
side note, I'm like pretty confident the real life Michael is still alive.
Oh, that's great. I love that for him.
He was at the time of the movie coming out, and he made a lot of press comments. So it was not a death sentence.
That's good. And like obviously at that time in the 90s, it's reasonable for him to have thought it would be, but like that's great that yay modern medicine. But yeah, I think it's interesting because like real life to me is a song that explores Michael's interiority in a way that we never really get from Susan. So and I think there is perhaps a little passive misogyny in the songwriting here that we don't really get. Like the big female show-stopping number is Come to Your Senses, which at least on the page doesn't feel like one that really explores the female singer's perspective. It's about the male songwriter more than anything. I don't know.
I just think he didn't know how to write women. I don't know if I call him.
And
I wouldn't say it's misogyny. He's also young, so
yeah.
His prefrontal cortex probably hadn't finished. Well, he's 30, but if he's writing, if some of this is
his
taken
prefrontal cortex is plenty developed by 30.
He's writing this from 5 years past, so he's in his 20s, and I don't know. I think it's just he's writing from his perspective, which up until this point has been 25 years. It said he's been writing Superbia for 5 years. He's about to turn 30, 24, 25. Sure. He started writing this piece, so didn't really know how to write from that perspective. So therefore, was just like, nah, we're good. But in Jonathan Larson's defense, this was not how he had written the piece. He was writing it for himself to perform, talking about how these people are impacting him, which is his full right. It's his monologue.
Oh yeah, and if it had stayed that way, that's fine. So maybe this is an issue with David Auburn, but it is about the songwriting, specifically that we don't get a song that explores Susan's inner world. But
also, I also, it's not an issue with David Auburn. It's more, if you just think, if you're the person adapting someone's legacy or adapting their piece, how much do you want to change? How much do you feel like you can? It's like restoring a painting. Are you trying to restore to what it should be in your mind or what it was? Are you trying to hide the imperfections and fix them from a critical lens, or are you trying to just stitch it back together so that it's meaningful? So I can't say that I can be critical in that capacity, because what was his goal? And also, we can only speculate what Jonathan Larson would have wanted or could have wanted because he died.
Yeah, so, I think you're touching on something really interesting here, is the sort of tributary element to Auburn's intervention, and then by extension Miranda's even more tributary intervention, because I would argue that
I'd say fangirl, but yeah,
tributary fangirl, it's all the same. But I think also from Auburn's perspective, because it was, correct me if I'm wrong, because you know more about this than I do, that was Auburn the leap from solo song cycle to now it's a biographical portrait with all these other characters in it, or did that happen somewhere in between?
No, as far as I can tell, it happened 5 or 6 years after Jonathan Larson died.
Right.
That they made the off-Broadway production, and they stitched it together from the original song cycle, which was called Bohemia, I think, or Boho Days. It was called Boho Days. Which, and then became Tick Tick Boom, I think, in the interim, and then stitched together with Superbia. So it's Come to Your Senses, as far as I know, came from Superbia. So it wasn't even
right, and that makes sense then, if that's our one female perspective kind of song that didn't exist in the version that wasn't told from a female perspective, because it's just him sitting playing his piano to a captive audience in a Fringe-esque context. But I guess the tributary element, then, now that you've enlightened me on that context, Auburn is already not preserving the integrity of what the show is. He's telling a story about his friend. In a way, this ceases to be an autobiography and becomes a biography once you add all of that interstitial stuff. And I guess if you're going to do that and expand it to a world that's larger than just this one man sitting at his piano, you, as a playwright who's not terrible at writing women, David Auburn, proof is a very, female-led show.
Shots are fired.
I said not terrible, but I just think that he's not that invested, I think, in preserving the integrity of what the show was. The music, sure, like that is, Jonathan Larson wrote these songs for his song cycle musical. It's kind of like the interesting comparison is like the Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella and what's the name of the guy who wrote the new version of it that's like completely different narratively but keeps all the songs. like that.
I don't know, but was Brandy in it? Because she's sensational.
Yeah, exactly. but
Okay.
I kind of feel like his intervention is a lot closer to that for different reasons, because that's like this is kind of like a weird old artifact that has good music but weak
Are you
story.
talking about Bad Cinderella?
No, I'm not talking about bad Cinderella. I'm talking about actual Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella, which I forget the name of the guy, but somebody has like completely rewritten the book for, and like it's like fun. Like the new version of it is great, but keeps all the
Oh, the
songs.
Laura Osnes Santino Fontana version. Okay.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
I don't know. I could be wrong.
It's okay. I'm not going to look it up right now, but
This is irrelevant to this current discussion.
but
Okay.
I bring it up to be like he did the job of I'm going to write a new book that preserves the songs and almost nothing else. And once he's already doing that, I think there's more he could have done with the characters that he's so insistent on fleshing out.
I would be curious to see Chess for that purpose, the current Broadway adaptation. It was adapted by, I think, Danny Strong, who is a big screenwriter and TV showrunner, and was also on Gilmore Girls, and just rewrote the script of Chess, or fixed Chess, as he was
I've always
trying
really loved
to do.
Chess. I think Chess is great.
That's not a hot take. People really like the music.
Yeah, that's true. The music is better than the book, I would agree.
Can we just pause to think that there's 2 ABBA musicals right now?
Yeah. What a time
Broadway
to be alive.
Yeah. Ooh. I mean, lucky
like
us.
Chess is an ABBA adjacent musical. It's not an ABBA musical in the same way that Mamma Mia is.
It's not a jukebox, yes.
Yeah.
Though I like Mamma Mia. Anyway.
Speaking of jukeboxes, actually, this goes back to get us back onto Tick Tick Boom. And maybe this is just something with like the style of rock opera that Jonathan Larson wrote. But I feel like the best songs from this show work very well completely out of context of the show and feel like songs you could just listen to and bob your head to on the radio. And I think Green Green Dress is a good example of that. That if it wasn't supposed to be the emotional anchor for this relationship, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I think it's a song that I can bob my head to that sounds nice. And yeah, feels kind of like that sort of almost like not even 90s, like 50s surf rock kind of vibe is, but
yeah, I got that.
Yeah. And I think the best songs, like this is definitely a musical album that I could listen to all the way through in isolation without even thinking about the story once. And that's not a problem. It means he wrote good songs. But I think if a lot of the issues that we're pointing to are things that come down to the book of this as a musical and trying to treat it like a more traditionally structured musical, I think that's telling about it. I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Yeah, I inherently think it would be better served as a song cycle, just because then you can do a little spiel and then go and rip about something that's slightly like tangentially related. You can, and you can. It's kind of like talking to the audience, telling your story. You can kind of put these songs a little bit more into their place in a narrative sense. But as a musical, like, it does work, right?
Yeah,
this is
works.
Not a flawed, inherently musical where something doesn't make sense or you forgive it because of X. Like, it works. It's not as strong as it maybe could be in a different version. I think I would probably go like song cycle, rock opera, monologue is what I'm most excited by. Then the movie, which I really liked, and then the stage musical in terms of adapting the material. But it's still good.
Yeah, it's right? Good, like but it doesn't blow me away. If I was blown away, it's a testament to the 3 performers, not to the material itself.
The 3 performers, the direction.
Yeah. Very well put together.
The relationships or, between the 3 and how their personalities are shine through. But I think we're being a little harsh. Like, it is, don't get us wrong. It is.
This is why we saved this for post spoiler, because like we gave our emphatic recommendations beforehand.
I keep thinking back to Title of Show.
I love Title of Show. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. I like this better. That's a show within a show.
The Title of Show makes me laugh more, and I think I just have better memory of it because of that.
That's fair. I just think the music is better.
Yeah, I think this is better songwriting. Title of show is better comedy writing, which this isn't trying to be a comedy necessarily. It has its funny moments, but
maybe I would argue that Tick Tick Boom is more approachable from a non-musical theater fangirl.
Yeah, title of show is definitely a fangirl show.
I recall I saw, I think Angel Walk did it, and I saw it with my friend, and we really liked it. And then I sent my parents to go see it, and they're like, "What is this? I don't."
Yeah, it is very inside baseball.
Yeah, and I feel like I could send my parents to Tick Tick Boom, and maybe my mom would say, "Oh, you know, the costumes were nice, but not so professional looking," or "Oh, the set was a little small." But the quality of the material, I don't think would be up for discussion. Which is why I said in the beginning that if you gave this production just a little bit more funding to elevate maybe some of the background components, I think the quality of the performances would be matched.
Yeah,
not to say that the set or anything was bad. It wasn't. It was just you finish your thought.
Yeah, this does feel like it's just like a hair away from being something that could very easily be on the off-Mervish CAA stage with a little more funding.
The direction and the actual performances, yes, just make the sets feel a little bit more polished.
Yeah, though I was impressed with like those 3 flats that they had. Like that's higher production value than you usually see in shows renting the Alumni Theater.
Definitely. Yeah. And the use of space was really good. I liked how there was a board on one of the walls, and at one point it was Jonathan's house board. I'm not sure what was on it, photos, ideas, notes, things like that. And then it switched into a whiteboard for a scene at an office, and then it switched into a menu board for a scene at a shop. I like that. But it would have been nice to see some sort of backdrop or seats for the restaurant instead of wooden stools, you know, and that's not their fault. That's clever use of materials that they have, but they can't invest in tables and chairs for one scene. They can't invest in an office setup. As an aside, The Office, I really thought it was funny when the band came out.
Yeah, well, because that's the thing. Like, okay, also this. Let's go back to that for a minute, because I feel like in the spirit of the song cycle better version of this that you can imagine and that I'm now imagining for myself, I think the band should be visible. I think it's a mistake to hide them.
Now, do you think that this production is limited in terms of theater space? Do you think they could have? Or do you just think in another space, maybe if they did it at the CAA on Yonge Street?
I feel like because they went to the trouble to make those 3 big flats, that feels like a deliberate choice to hide them, because they could have done 2 flats and worked around that and had the band right there on the side where we could see it, and then still have it funny that they stand up and become the office guys in that meeting. But I like the fact that you actually like whispered to me, like, who are they? Like, because everyone was like cheering, like they recognized them. And
and then you looked at me and said, they're the band. Who else could they be? And I go, oh.
Yeah. Well, because like really, who else could they be? And like, I don't know them personally, like
stage management.
These guys. Well, we were also like at opening night. There were a lot of friends in the audience and a lot of people who probably just know them and know they're the band, and that was funny. And yes, it could have been stage management. This isn't a show that I think has 4 ASMs backstage or 4 stagehands backstage. Like, it doesn't need that much tech assistance. This isn't Far Side of the Moon that has the whole army of stagehands come out at the end. But yeah, I don't know. It's such a minor nitpick to think about, but I feel like if the band was on stage and if Jonathan interacts with the band, like they could be his band. He like, I don't know. It's a weird thing to be griping at, but something. I think there's this sort of like gesture. Yeah, please finish my thought because I'm working on it.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. No, I think that's a cool idea. I think I would be curious to hear what Meredith Shedden, the director, would have to say about that, because it definitely changes the piece, right? So it would be something different. But I in general like when the band is on stage.
Me too.
That's not always, but in general.
A show about musicians feels like it should have the band on stage. Like Hedwig, which is another production that Bowtie has done. It just went that it's different because the characters are like the band in a different way. But I guess maybe why it's bothering me a little bit is that I think by hiding them, it's similar to what we were saying about like the leap from song cycle to just biographical piece about this guy who died. Then it kind of just makes me think that there is this gesture towards professionalism is maybe the wrong word, but like we have to make it like pristine. Yeah. And for a show that's quite literally about process and how you kind of like turn your life into your art, it's weird to be hiding the procedural aspects of some of it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Did we have more to say about Strange Loop? I know we said we'd revisit that post spoiler, but then we wound up talking about it pre spoiler. Was there more you wanted to say about that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we got it.
Cool.
It's tonally very different.
Yeah. And I guess I just appreciate the ambition of that show that I think is lacking in the writing of this show.
Yeah. I mean, ambition. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's just people writing from different perspectives, and Jackson's perspective is a lot more nuanced and complicated, maybe. I would say that Tick, Tick, Boom hits you with the emotions, but the general tone is more, at least in this production, it's lighter, it's easier, it's not a downer. And
yeah, there's no AIDS is God's punishment scene in this. That would be weird if that followed Michael's confession.
Yes, versus in A Strange Loop, it uses light songs and comedy to sometimes mask how dark it can get, especially towards the end of the show, where there's pretty graphic scenes that are not in a fun way. So, to say the least. So it's a little bit of a flip. It's just tonally very different. And I wouldn't bring a kid to A Strange Loop unless they're a pretty well-adjusted, knowledgeable theater-y kid in their teens.
Yeah.
But you could take this is PG. Maybe
this is
PG.
Very, I feel like it's very PG. At least this production. I could imagine a more raunchy staging of this, but this production's quite tame.
Yes. And I don't think they swear even.
No.
It's not not to say it's a little more tone deaf, which is okay.
Yeah, it's fun for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, except for Jonathan Larson.
Well, I think he probably had fun writing this, or at least kind of like expelled all of the thoughts that didn't belong in Rent while writing this. This is why, again, I've used the term footnotes to Rent several times, but I really feel like this musical is just his creative diary while he's working on the other better thing. And I imagine many of these songs were written certainly for Superbia, as is the case with Come to Your Senses. But I feel like a lot of these songs were probably first drafts of songs for Rent that went in a completely different direction, but he liked what he wrote enough that he wanted to use them somewhere.
That's true. I would have to read a bio. Like, I'm not sure. You can definitely hear it in the music, nods to what would become Rent, especially some of those harmonies that you think are going to end in a certain way, and then they kind of do something different. Using real music-y terms here, but you can hear it, and it's familiar and it's comforting. I don't know. Did you read something about how this song became that song? Because I'm not sure it's exactly like that.
Not to my recollection. I'm not
sure.
Like, what's I forget what it's called, the candle song in Rent.
Would You Light My Candle?
Would You Light My Candle? I feel like Green Green Dress could have been a first draft of that song, honestly. And And wouldn't it be so funny if, like, we get to the scene where the workshop for his musical, but instead of Come to Your Senses, she sings Over the Moon? That would be funny. I would enjoy that.
Yeah. Now, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Because you said this a couple times, and maybe this is an obvious question, but I feel like it's worth exploring. Do you think Rent is better? Like, because now he died. And Rent is much more, he died during Rent.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's much more well known, and probably as a result of everything that went down, it made it more well known.
Yeah.
If that hadn't happened, or do you think Rent is better than Tick, Tick, Boom? Honestly.
I think
I'm not sure.
Yeah. On its own merits, I'm inclined to say yes. And I think something I said earlier is that if Rent hadn't been the big success that it was for whatever confluence of reasons made it the big success that it was, I don't think anybody would be reviving Tick, Tick, Boom today. They might revive Rent as like this was like an obscure musical from the 90s that never took off, but it's actually pretty good and we should give it another chance. But I don't think anyone would have that same mindset with, and here's this other thing by the same guy. It has that just diary quality to it that he is just kind of like, and it's because like the fact that he died, I think, is a big part of it. But it's also because Rent is successful that's what makes the autobiography meaningful. Because like to just some guy, a struggling composer, sure, maybe like artists can relate to his experience and be like, oh yeah, I see a version of myself because I'm also struggling, and oh no, I'm turning 30. And there's like nuggets of it that, if not gesture towards a universal, at least can be relatable to others with shared similar experiences. But if he's just some kind of like whiny white guy who thinks he's entitled to success that never comes to him, I'd have a hard time connecting with that story. It's because he proves his worth with a better show and then dies and has this complicated legacy around that. We read so much more meaning into Tick, Tick, Boom than I think exists in Tick, Tick, Boom. And that's normal and inevitable and fine. I don't say that as a judgment against the morality of doing so, nor a judgment against the piece itself. But if we were to completely divorce it from that context, it's fine. It's a well-written song cycle that then got puffed up into something bigger than it should have been. Again, I like Rent fine. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I think it's a fine musical. I understand its importance in that moment in the 90s, what it did for musical theater. Every generation of musical theater has its vaguely countercultural musical, and that was the one in that moment in the 90s. Yeah, I like Rent enough. And I think Rent stands on its own better than Tick, Tick, Boom does. Tick, Tick, Boom becomes meaningful with the mountain of context that gives it meaning.
Okay. Yeah.
What's your take?
Yeah, I think Rent's better. Mm-hmm. I think the characters are more fleshed out. I like that it's showing a specific perspective, a snapshot of life in the 90s, things that Bohemian artists in the Lower East Side, I guess, were dealing with, or East Village, or Avenue, City. Whatever. Alphabet City. The lower level letters of the alphabet, A, B. I have fun feelings about going to see it with my best friend, Jessie, who was in a guyliner phase and dyed his hair black. And it just, like, I can't separate. He's going to love that I said that. Coincidentally, we're going to the concert next week in Toronto.
Adam Pascal,
Adam Pascal, who played Roger in both the stage original and the
Why is Adam Pascal doing a show at the JCC?
At the Jewish Community Center? I'm not sure.
He must owe somebody a favor. Or is he going through a divorce? What is the meaning of this?
I am not going to question.
It's just so bizarre. But anyway, fine.
Yes, it is. It is. And I did see they did a national touring production in 2009 with the original Roger and Mark. Anthony Rapp and Adam Pascal, and that was flipped, and that was pretty remarkable. So even though they were way too old, it's fine. No one cared. So I think Rent's better.
Yeah,
but
and I would agree.
I think as a song cycle, this is more intriguing to me because it is going so much deeper into one character and one person, and that person is Jonathan Larson, and that would be a more. I think that would be maybe more interesting. This is big maybe because I'm not. You can watch a video of him performing it, but it's not the same.
I feel like Tick, Tick, Boom is kind of the oops all Mark version of Rent. And Mark is my least favorite character in Rent. Maybe there's a little Roger in there too because of songwriting, but I think Mark is the character that he relates to most.
It depends who's playing Mark.
Yeah.
I need to think on that.
I've seen I've seen some very interesting interpretations of Mark played by other actors. Like, and I don't say that to be just like, ugh, Mark, no thank you, hate this character across the board, but I think a version of Rent that's just Mark looks a lot like Tick, Tick, Boom. I think the other characters, like Angel in particular, makes Rent more interesting for their presence in it.
Well, Mark is very much semi-autobiographical.
Yeah,
I think.
And that's what Tick, Tick, Boom
similar
to
his life. Yeah, just more annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on the moment.
Offline conversation. I have questions about which productions you've seen, because I think we might have seen similar ones. If you saw it in your 20s, did you see the Victoria University, like the U of T Victoria production?
I didn't. I saw one at York University where I did my undergrad. And then I saw a couple years ago one that was actually up in Muskoka in Huntsville that Jill from Cup of Hemlock, who I was dating at the time, she played Maureen in. So those are the two. I've never seen like an actual like big professional like stage version of it. I've seen the movie and those two student and indie productions of it.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, look, I think this one, how do I say this nicely? I think Rent became such a cultural phenomenon, and it became like the marker of teen rebellion, because Lord knows that in my like cushy little school in North York, we are not at grade 7, thankfully, we are not dealing with AIDS, and we are not dealing with not having heating or electricity, but we are rebellious teens who rebel by wearing eyeliner and maybe jelly bracelets. And it is kind of funny that this musical that is about people genuinely struggling and hardships and populations that we probably didn't have any association with became the angsty teens who really don't know these things. They kind of took it over, and that's kind of annoying, also hilarious, and that would be pot calling kettle black. Like, don't claim to be about that. But this in itself, Tick, Tick, Boom, I don't feel like you can do the same with, because it really is about just one guy, and he's going through hardships, but what kind of centers it, and it's sort of brushed away in the musical, and I think isn't really in the movie, is that his friend Michael is actually dying, right? Or has been diagnosed with AIDS.
Even though, as you pointed out, the inverse, that Jonathan died and Michael survived, but that's beside the point when he was writing it.
Exactly. But in some ways, there's this kind of funny parallel, because these high school kids are like, woe is me, life is so hard. Or in my case, 7th grade or 8th grade when I saw this movie. I can't remember. Ages are hard. And they're like being a little bit self-indulgent when there's Michael, who actually has like life-altering news. And
just let him enjoy his BMW in his fancy apartment. He's earned it.
It's like, yeah. My math class is really hard too. It's a little funny. I mean, but all that is to say, like, we are obviously going to center our own experiences in our lives. We're people, and we only like that's just kind of being a human. In some ways, I appreciate Tick, Tick, Boom for just it's about a guy. He's in poverty. Right? He's living in an apartment in a loft without any heating. I don't know if that's mentioned in the musical, but that's what he was. And he has a hard job working at a diner and in the service industry. And he's got it hard.
He doesn't seem to be struggling financially from what we see in the show, though.
He definitely is.
We can understand because
he can't afford to take the taxi.
Yeah, well, he says stuff like that, and like I believe that it's true, but like he seems strangely comfortable. Maybe that's just in this staging of it, they didn't like lean into the hardship elements.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the rent problems are clearly of a different scale,
and they're on his mind, of course.
Yes.
Yes.
So, but there is something to be appreciated of just like, you don't need to catastrophize everything. You don't need to it's not a competition of who has the hardest life. Just, this is who he is. This is what he is struggling with. And that's fine. Yeah. And I appreciate that. And that it's fine.
I just feel like I don't know. Maybe this is just a problem I have with autobiographical theater or autobiographies in general. Something I think a lot about because it actually does like tie into my research in some interesting ways. But I think autobiography is compelling either when the person has lived such a remarkable life or is just such a remarkable perspective that they're so different from our own that we can maybe not live vicariously, but sort of get something interesting just from learning about what they've been through or how they see the world. Or it can be very interesting when it's just that so relatable because, wow, you're just like an ordinary guy like me. And I think this is definitely leaning far more to that side, but I don't find his relatability that remarkable, maybe for me at least. I was talking to other artists, at the opening night reception who were just like, oh man, yes, I needed to see this right now. Like, this is just so my juncture as an artist. And I'm like, yes, that's sweet. And like, we were at opening night, there were a lot of artists in the audience, friends of the company. But I wonder just for like the general person who's not in the arts, who just wants to see a musical, what do you connect to in the story? Mm-hmm. The music is great. It's easy to connect to the music, but the story is just like, yeah, you're just some guy whose life is, again, meaningful because of what you accomplish and then suddenly stop accomplishing due to death after. But on its own terms, he didn't know any of that was coming when he wrote this, which is why it feels a lot like a private journal more so than something that belongs on a public stage.
Okay, 2 thoughts.
Yes.
One, you just said something, he didn't know it. And he didn't know that he was going to die at 35 when he's writing this. And no, he didn't. But there's a sense of urgency that, tick, tick, boom.
Yeah, the retroactive meaning that comes from it. You said that wasn't even the title of the original musical, how he wrote it. He didn't center that as the important thing. It's only after his death that became this is what it's actually about.
No. I think the title changed before he died.
Oh, did it? Okay. I think so. Relaying the narrative.
But I think it was but the original title was Boho Days, but where was I going with this?
Sorry, I interrupted your 2 thoughts.
I got lost. So I think that there is a message to be taken there, maybe after his death, that living with a sense of urgency for accomplishment maybe, I guess, is okay, or like he knew something we didn't, I guess, because he did die. And I guess maybe the general message you could take away is to just live life with a sense of not urgency or desire. No, just, for not wasting time that has been given to you. The question of whether or not you're wasting time, in the little note by the director, Meredith talks about how time wasted doing something you love isn't something time wasted. And I think that that's maybe what she was getting at in her direction. Second thought is, you said, who does this resonate with? And you're talking about all these artists. When I saw this in 2021, is that when the movie came out? COVID.
Yeah, it was in the middle of the pandemic time. Yeah,
it really resonated with me, and not as a creative in that way. The idea of trying to make something of your life and feel like you see other people doing all these great things and being so accomplished, and you're just kind of looking at yourself thinking, well, what the hell am I doing? Why am I not there? Why am I not hitting these milestones? Mm-hmm. And I said this to you in passing when we left the theater, but it hits differently now that I have a baby. Mm-hmm. I had a child. And that's not to say that my purpose in life was to have a child. I think we're all
you have accomplished a great thing, if not the great thing that defines your life.
At least to me, I think that I created a life, and he's way better than me. Mm-hmm. I think, and
you're great, but he's better.
He's literally the best baby in the entire world. Like I don't know what you really want to say. Thank you. He's at my parents' right now, which is why I can record this. But at the end of the day, like, I did something. I grew a human, and that it's not the biggest thing in the world, and it's by no means, unique, but it's small and it's something. And it doesn't need to be you're creating this big musical. You don't need to go to this fancy school or land on the moon, though that would be awesome, and space exploration is really cool. you can just do something. I don't know, maybe I'm diminishing the magic of having a child, but like you do something that impacts someone positively, making something, however, to whatever scale. And that's, I still want to do things. I still want to be successful, but like, it's not the same urgency that it was before. And this is just my personal experience. By no means am I saying that everyone can find fulfillment in this way, nor should they. Please don't. In fact, for some people, but like it's okay. And that's just really funny to me that all the artists that you spoke to are like, oh, this is really setting with me. This is really setting with me. Maybe that just speaks to artists' desire to leave their mark in a certain way. But just know that like you're okay. And just do you, and don't do bad in society. Like, I'm not saying, be the worst human in the world, but like, do you, live your life, and that's okay. We're cool.
I think you're touching on some interesting things here because, yes, while obviously it's anyone's right to choose if they want children, and even if they do, they shouldn't let it define their whole lives. But
exactly,
it obviously reorients your priority. Like, once you make the choice that you do want to have a kid, and then you do have a kid, you say like, oh, it's like not the biggest thing in the world. It is for someone, and that is your son. You created him, and his entire life precipitates from that decision that you made in your own life, that you have created this person who will go on to do many things, and everything they do in their own life is because of the life you gave him, the part of your life you gave him. And that doesn't mean like you're a creative person, you're an artist, you're a writer, you have all kinds of business ideas all the time that you're always texting me about, that I expect you will do more than your life than just being a mom. But the fact that you became a mom gives your life that sense of purpose that will always be part of your life now, because you have this person that you are, for now, while he's growing up, responsible for. You take care of him, you raise him to be a well-adjusted adult. And then even once he becomes an adult, you're not going to be like, well, now my job is done. You still, you'll live your life with him in it. So I think there's a reason why the biological clock is this metaphor for how much time you have to accomplish your thing. And it's often for many people an oppressive metaphor to think that I have to have my romantic and family life figured out by this certain point. But that is a kind of tick, tick, boom that motivates people to accomplish certain things by certain times. There is an immense amount of male privilege to knowing that, relax, you have more time to figure stuff out, that unfortunately women, both biologically and how society has structured itself around that biological imperative, hasn't quite afforded.
Yeah, and I think for Jonathan Larson, it's his baby is his music, right? Yeah. It's not a physical human, but that's what he's trying to develop and create. And that is to say that your baby, as you, the listener, can also be something that is not a baby. And in fact, I encourage it. Global population.
Yeah, and Jonathan clearly cares more about his music than he cares about his relationship with Susan, and that's fine. That's why that relationship doesn't ultimately work out. That's why Green Green Dress is such a shallow, superficial song, because he wanted to write a good song more than he wanted to tell this woman how much he loves her. That's, I think, why I had issues with that song, but it's actually a pretty apt encapsulation.
Yeah, which is why I didn't have issues with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's fine. Maybe I can renege on some of the shade I threw at it for that reason, if that is the purpose.
No, I think your perspective is completely accurate, and I think we have the same opinion on what the song is saying. It's just the flip side of whether you accept it as a plus or a negative. Like, I think we have the same opinion, just coming at it from, oh, I'm saying the same thing over and over. You know what I mean?
I know.
We think the same fundamentally about the piece. I think it works. I think the song works. You're like, that's why I don't like it.
I think it works if the point is to highlight how much more in love with his music he is than her. But in that moment in the show, at least in this interpretation, I feel like we're supposed to be locked into this relationship.
Yeah, I think I that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. It's a fun song.
It's a fun song that I will listen to in isolation, but in the show narratively, we've had this
Green's
conversation.
Green's also my favorite color.
It's the color of my tea.
No, it's the color of a $20 bill.
This is true in Canada.
I have a 20 sitting on my desk.
We've been talking for a while. Are there any kind of last thoughts, topics we haven't gotten to that you want to address?
I think we've talked, if I can just summarize.
Please.
And maybe we can see. So we talked a lot about how we like this production, this team. Maybe the team deserves an extra special shout out, Bowtie Productions. They're an independent theater company, small. I think they're a registered nonprofit. So you can donate. I think. I don't want to be giving false information.
They may or may not be. Do your research before you do a tax-deductible donation.
However, you could do probably some sort of write-off donation if it's not a tax-deductible. Maybe it's just a loss. I don't know. Look, they're one of many companies in the city that are doing really cool work and highlighting young or emerging talent. And I think they're worth supporting because they're really cool and they're doing really good work. And I am always highly impressed by people who see something missing in the theater economy environment and are like, yeah, we're going to change. We're going to do it. I want to see this production. I'm going to do it. And I think that that's incredible and harder than it sounds. And I respect it immensely. And Ian Kowalski is the Meredith is the artistic director, and he's the
managing director or general manager. He's credited as the producer on this production. Yeah, Ian Kowalski.
Also an artist, but very awesome. Like they're and Joshua, so impressive. Yeah, like just go watch them. They're cool.
Yeah.
So we talked about them. We talked about the
also,
plot.
The thought about that. I said this glibly to you before we saw the show, but it's so weird to me that Bowtie and Shifting Ground are two separate companies. Like, when are they just going to merge already? Pool your resources.
There's so much overlap.
They have all this. Everyone acting in this show has been affiliated with Shifting Ground Productions, all three of them. I don't know. I don't want to tell them how to run their completely separate operations, but it just seems like a natural fit for these two to merge and think about what they could accomplish together. I'm happy to continue seeing separate shows from both of them if that's how they continue their trajectory. But just putting that thought out there that there's no way they haven't already thought of, right?
We don't know the politics behind this.
Is true.
I have only met.
We are assuming there is politics.
I actually met Diana for the first time last night. I didn't get to talk to Misha. I've met Joshua a couple times, and I'm always impressed. Like, that guy knows what's going on. Like, it's very, very. They're all impressive.
Yeah, super impressive.
So I don't know if there's a reason why they haven't done co-productions, or maybe they have slightly different
how
goals.
Is this not a co-production when it has all of the safety, when the artistic director of Shifting Ground is playing the lead right here on the poster?
Exactly. I think that just is a testament to the level of talent that exists in the city right now, and that if Meredith and Joshua both want to be artistic directors, then they have to do their own things. Time will tell if one of them becomes bigger than the other. I'm rooting for both.
Yeah, and I certainly am too. And that's why I just think, man, if they did come together, because I think there's a lot of talk specifically around Shifting Ground more so, but Bowtie, I think, is part of this conversation about what is the future of Canadian musical theater. And it seems, obviously, they're not, quote unquote, competing with each other because they share all of these same people.
Well, they are. No, they are.
There is a seemingly, because they don't run their shows at the same time as each other. It doesn't feel like you have to choose between. Did they at one point?
No. So I had a friend that was in Falsettos, which was a Bowtie production,
which Josh was also in.
Yes, he was, and my friend's Olivia, who played his love interest in the show, and
who was in Spelling Bee with Shifting Ground.
Exactly. But I think if I'm remembering correctly, Merrily and Falsettos were at the same time.
Okay.
So I think.
Maybe.
So that, and there were some people that were in both or doing double duty or going from the one to the other. So in terms of production side, I think it was, I don't think, because
that's interesting.
Spelling Bee, so I could be getting those two.
Because Josh directed Merrily and was in Falsetto, so was at the same time.
I think so. I know that they had to pause rehearsals at one point.
Okay, interesting.
Or because there was so much overlap. I think it was that show. So they're
anyway.
I think their ticket price is low enough. I think it's $35 to or $25 to $35 or $35 to $45. So you can go see both, hopefully. But it's not Mirvish prices, is what I'm saying.
But so long as they exist as two independent operations with their own productions coming out every year,
they are competing. Yeah,
there will be a competitive ethos. Yeah,
and I also think they produce similar works.
Similar.
Except for Falsettos is a pretty big musical, but Spelling Bee, Maryland's also big. But
yeah, I think it's more just that they're both doing pre-existing musicals from the catalog.
Yeah.
And when they do it with the same personnel, there is going to be a sameness feel too. If we didn't have the label that says Bowtie Productions, you could very easily think this was a Shifting Ground production, and vice versa with every Shifting Ground production.
I get them confused, honestly. I get them confused.
Not that we need to dwell on their reasons for operating the way they do, but it's just a thought that I had that we might as well put it on the record. This is a free-form conversation about whatever we're feeling.
I have positive things to say about both companies, so
do I.
There is no downside.
Yes, it is not competitive for us to feel like we must rank them against each other. But it is competitive in the sense that we might wind up missing a show from one just because there's so many coming from both.
Can I ask you maybe a controversial question?
Sure.
And we'll see if you cut it out. Do you have you've seen more of these productions than I have. I've seen maybe 4. What was your favorite? You can only pick. There can only be one.
Only one? Okay, I have a favorite from each of them that I could say. That it would be hard to compare them to each other. Because you're making me rank one of them versus the other. Because I will say right now, my favorite Shifting Ground production to date is actually their first. It was Ordinary Days. I loved that production of Ordinary Days, and I loved just the night I saw it with the cast configuration, Chef's Kiss. It was perfect. I think my favorite production from Bowtie to date was Hedwig, which is also just one of my favorite musicals, period.
I didn't see that. Yeah.
But so I was predisposed to like that one going in. So if you're going to make me say, did I like Hedwig more than Ordinary Days or vice versa, you are making me rank these two companies that we would like to think shouldn't be ranked against each other.
That's why I said controversial question.
I will keep this in the episode, but I will not give a definitive ruling on that.
That's probably in your best interest. Yeah.
Any other last thoughts?
No.
No.
I feel like I have talked enough.
This is a fun conversation. I'm so glad. Thank you, Lori, for being on this episode with me. I knew you would be a good guest for this. You're just a fun person to talk to. And you know your theater so well.
I'm fun and cool.
Yeah, fun and cool.
I feel like if I ever am in a bad place, I can just remember that Ryan said I'm cool.
I know.
And fun.
And I am neither of those things, so you can take my word for it.
You're both fun and cool.
I am neither fun nor cool. Blasphemy.
That, I think you should have more confidence in yourself and take from Tick Tick Boom.
Yeah.
The messaging.
Stuff that I find so arrogant about Andrew Garfield, I should imbue that into myself.
You should watch the movie.
At some point.
It's really good. I really like it.
Siphon Netflix off of someone. I don't know.
And the opposite of preface. Let me end
Postface.
That's a word.
Yeah.
Okay, let me back what is it?
Let's put a coda on this.
Bookend.
Sure.
Bookend. Let me bookend this conversation by saying that I am not an easy critic, at least when I write. Okay?
I edit everything you write, I know.
Yeah, I am not giving praise easily. I give credit where credit is due.
You're kind and polite in your criticism.
Yes, yeah. I'm trying not to be like
you're not a takedown artist,
person, but I'm not saying everything in the city is great and theater overall is just perfect and we're living in a happy world.
The Welkin is guilty of dragging on too long. That was your headline.
It was about the Welcome was about a trial. I get. Really,
I know. I like to do. I like a good pun.
Thank you. I was just telling the audience because you probably didn't see it. Back to the point. I'm not saying these praises lightly. I really do believe in this company and these people and Shifting Ground. Let's throw them in there.
They're all part of this.
We're rooting for them.
Indie theater, indie musicals, because musicals are hard to produce on an indie budget. That's the important takeaway from the praise we're heaping on both of these companies.
Everything is hard to produce on an indie budget, and they're doing so much more than their means. They're, what is it, pitching above their weight? Is that the word? Metaphors are hard.
Sports.
They're sports. They're doing well and they're doing cool things, and I don't say that lightly. So please support them and see any shows that Joshua, Diana, and Misha are in, because they are all special, and not in like an I Eat Paste special, in a unique voices, great combo of singing and acting. I think they're equally strong on both levels, and that's rare in itself. Just like see it. And if I'm wrong, art is subjective, and what do I know? So
therefore you can't be wrong, because you're just voicing your subjective opinion.
Yeah, all opinions are created equal. Some are more equal than others.
Animal Farm.
So I'm right. I'm kidding. Just see it. It's good. And we've talked a lot.
Yeah. Lori, thanks so much.
What do you think? What are your last thoughts?
I was trying to sign off without last thoughting myself. No, I liked it. I thought it was a fun show. I enjoyed it. As somebody who has clearly weird, complicated feelings about all of it, the fact that I had as good a time as I did means that this is one stellar production with an amazing cast. And I'm happy to make that my big takeaway. The fact that this episode is as long as it is because we have all kinds of interesting, juicy stuff that we could pick apart about it.
No, it's because I ramble.
Because there's a lot to ramble over in this show.
Yeah, I think that's a flaw on my end, but
it's okay. We're all ramblers.
The show is shorter than this podcast, depending on how you.
I don't think that's true, but maybe. Well, we'll see. We got started later than we intended, so the start time isn't a good measure here. Either way, if you enjoyed the show and wanted to hear two people who you may or may not know talk about it for however long this turned out to be, thanks for sticking all the way to the end. We appreciate you being here. We will remove the Twinkie from the screen at this point. And
if you stay until the end, comment Twinkie in the notes below.
We get so few comments, but we get some, like, a surprising amount of listens. So I don't know. It's weird. It's a very inactive audience we have. But yes, if you want to put a Twinkie in the comments so we know you stuck to the end, that would be fun.
Alternatively, what is your favorite flavor of cake? No.
Yes, calls to action.
Like, comment,
good for engagement.
Subscribe.
Yes, that's my job to say that. If you like the Cup, we are at COH Theater on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are Cup of Hemlock Theater on YouTube, Cup of Hemlock Theater podcast, and all the podcast places where you might be listening to this and seeing no Twinkies. Lori, where can people find and follow you if they want to keep up with all of your theater antics?
Girllikestheater.com. I do not do social media because it's terrible, but I support you if you do. Girllikestheater.com. I also write for Next Magazine sometimes, thanks to Mr. Ryan.
That's me.
And I also exist in life, so come say hi. Yeah. I am awkward but friendly.
That is you in a nutshell. Awkward and friendly. Yeah. Best of both.
Yeah. Approachable. Say hi.
Yes. I thought you were so unapproachable for so long. Not because of anything about your personality, just because I loved your blog, and that's how we met. And I just thought, like, wow, she's so funny and writes all these, like, insightful yet quirky reviews. And then I would see you at openings and be like, should I introduce myself? And I was like, nah, she's too cool.
Oh, no, I'm not that cool.
Yeah, you're fun and cool.
We're all just people. Just say hi.
No, that's good. Yeah. And also, every time you write something for Next, you make a post about it on Girl Likes Theater. So if somebody just wants to follow you there, they will get access to all your Next reviews and thoughts as well.
Yes. So on Next Magazine, my reviews are much more review in terms of format and level of professionality. On my blog, I mostly just riff. Sometimes that's a formal review. Sometimes that's an analysis of the text in a more specific way. Sometimes I'm just writing about something I like. But I will say, Next pays me, so I'm more inclined to review for them. I pay myself in praises and pats on back. And
letting yourself let loose in a way that you don't in a formal review. Which is what drew my attention to your work and then brought you into the Next family.
And then it made me a professional.
Yeah.
No.
You went pro. You're a sellout. Like it merrily.
Yes, and in Jonathan
Right? Yeah,
Larson's
yeah. He doesn't want
particular,
to
the
work for the
character of
market
Michael.
research, and yeah,
What can't? Yeah. Okay, we need to be less judgy of people's
yes,
career
people having
decisions.
real jobs. And honestly,
We
okay,
don't.
sorry, I know we took the Twinkie off the screen. I'm putting the Twinkie back on for a second. I
Yeah.
actually, something I admire about this, and I'm sure this is more so Auburn than Larson, that I actually don't feel like the text of the show judges Michael for his selloutness. Like, I think Jonathan, the character, judges him for it, but I feel like Michael is vindicated because he's dying, and it's like, just let me live my life, let me have my car. It's One could imagine a version of the show is like, because you're dying, you shouldn't be here. You should get back to doing what you love. And
Yeah.
that's not the ruling we come down to on Michael. Someone, probably Auburn, has respect for his life choices, and I appreciate that.
I think that's clear with the whole belt subplot.
Yeah.
Where the character of Michael has 3 Gucci belts, and Jonathan is just looking at it and saying, "Well, I've never had 3 belts, let alone 3 Gucci belts." And then at the end of the play for Jonathan's birthday, Michael gets him 3 belts, not Gucci, saying that he's not a Gucci guy. And that's kind of like, yeah, I think it's worth it to have 3 belts because I think that's a nice luxury of owning more than one of an accessory. But you're not Gucci, and that's cool. That's just not you. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And Michael does like living in an apartment with heating.
And he likes his job, but
laundry.
it seems like we don't get any indication that he's unhappy there.
And I think that's just like, we should probably be less judgy of each other in general. If we all have different priorities, and if you want to prioritize living a certain way instead of following what someone else perceives to be your passion, then that's fine. Like, he didn't have to be an artist if he didn't want to. He clearly doesn't. And that's not what's fulfilling him. And just because that's what fulfills Jonathan, it's to each their own. And just live your life. Don't be mean to other people, and
live your life while you can is the thesis of the show.
And also, bringing it back to the beginning, drink caffeine, but stay hydrated.
That's right. That is the 3 belts of this podcast.
So if you've learned anything, it's to see indie musical theater and stay hydrated.
And have more than one belt if you can afford it, or have a friend who is willing to gift you them.
And also, life's purpose has meaning for different people, but a small purpose is okay too.
And also, death makes a mundane life more meaningful.
And also, I'm cool.
And fun. All right, that's it for us.
I don't take myself seriously, so please don't think that.
Lori, once again, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. We already did our sign-offs and then went back to discussing cool stuff. So I will just end it here. Take care, everyone. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we will see you all in the next episode of The Cup. Cheers.